Okay, certainly last but certainly not least, we have Michele going to speak to us. She's VP of Lean Transformation at Navistar. And the conversation I had with Michele was one more interesting because I think there's two sides of her. One side is she loves to travel, even though she's traveling 3 or 4 weeks a month. Okay, so 4 weeks a month sounds to me like a lot, but she loves to travel, and that's struck me. But perhaps because she's a wine lover, and so much so she's taking classes at UC Davis on wine. So if you have any questions about wine at the cocktail hour after this presentation, I think she's the person to go talk to. What really impressed me, though, is she's had a very interesting background. At one time, she managed a truck fleet that had 18,500 trucks, okay? 52,000 containers, trailers, and 6,000 containers. Imagine that. She's tracking all this and managing that. And what struck me is one of the statistics she said that every year each truck would break a windshield. And so they were replacing 18,500 windshields a year in that business. And all I could think of is I wish I had the windshield replacement business for that company. So a very dynamic speaker. If you will, welcome Michele.
Much. It's tough to be the last speaker between beverages and dinner, so I'm going to do my best to keep you awake and entertained, and hopefully this adds value. So this is our logo at Navistar, and you can see who's the center of the target. It's the customer. Clearly, without the customer, we don't have a business model, correct? So, and it's all about the people. You've heard from almost every speaker talk about it's all about the people. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that concept. And we mention that every day in work when we're working on lean. We can have the best tools. We can have the best organization. I've seen beautiful dealerships. And if you don't have the right people and the right seats on the bus, you don't have anything. So you will see some examples of that as we walk through this. Navistar is a truck and engine manufacturer, $10 billion company. You can see we build severe duty, Class 8, our headquarters in Lisle, and we also build the MRAP, which was in Iraq, Afghanistan, saved a lot of lives. VHOL, very exciting vehicle for us. It's all about uptime. So our customers tell us uptime is extremely important. You can see the Swift truck below. That is our brand. That is our truck that really shines. And that was used during Swift's relisting. They went private for a while and brought our truck to Wall Street to be able to demonstrate how strong they were, and we're very excited about having that happen. But uptime to a customer means that truck is being driven, that asset is being utilized, and it's all about our dealerships getting that truck out, fixed first, the right time, with high efficiency. So it's a little bit of twist on manufacturing, and that it's really a job shop environment. I'm going to walk through that with you and show you what we do with regard to getting trucks out. Rush Truck Centers, they own 62 international dealerships along with a group of Peterbilts. They're headquartered in Texas, and this is our benchmark. It's beautiful. The service department is clean and neat, and it's safe. And also the parts department, it's very welcoming. You want to go in and you want to buy parts. So what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about lost opportunities, functional support areas, and daily operations link between the two, which I think is extremely important. We tend to lose that. We get siloed. Organizational culture and lessons learned, and the speed of lean. Speed is extremely important. I haven't heard a whole lot of people talk about speed of lean, so spend a little time on that. We build on people's strengths. A lot of organizations look at weaknesses, but I'm a big believer in making sure that we build on the strengths and find the right people to offset the weaknesses. So we spend a lot of time not wasting time on weaknesses. Let's take a look at lost opportunities. the 8 wastes, which are pretty standard for lean. The one that's most important is non-utilized talent. So while we're trying to keep the trucks on the road, we're trying to utilize our talent, and you're going to see that as we walk through. This is used throughout our manufacturing area. It's used in the corporate office. It's all over at our dealerships, and we make little cards so people are reminded about what those wastes are. And I ask them to keep it in mind as they walk through dealerships, walk through manufacturing, and play a little bit of a game about, okay, can I identify those wastes? Because that's really the hidden expense in my mind, that we can bring value. We were working on a project on lean order to delivery. We got called into the CFO's office, and he said, I don't know what you guys are doing, but you just put $40 million to the bottom line. I have been looking for a week, I can't find it. That's a lot of money. And the reason was we cleaned things up. We had 5S, we had organized. The flow was faster, so the money was turning faster. We didn't cost cut. We leaned out the environment from order to delivery and dropped that amount of money to the bottom line. And that's what we're bringing to our dealers and to our fleets. And it's quite amazing what can happen. We're going to walk through some of the dollars. We also believe that it improves customer satisfaction. I'll demonstrate that. Employee morale. And profitability will come if you do everything right. I'm a big believer in that. I'll demonstrate that as well. Minutes equate to millions. Remember that. We have dealers who know what the expense in their service department is every minute, and that's how they measure it. We have other dealers who are clueless. So it all depends on where they are in the development of lean, and that's how I mold the program. Because you're not going to get somebody to measure the cost of a minute if they don't even have the basis or foundation of lean. Why would we expect them to do that, right? So you have to bring them along and lead them to that level of thinking. If I told a lot of dealers, hey, you know what, you're going to be measuring the cost of every minute, it'd scare the hell out of them, and they wouldn't want to be involved because they couldn't see that end game. And I think that's where a lot of lean folks, they're way ahead. They get ahead of the headlamps, right? And they scare people in that I'm not competent to do that. You have to lead them along the path. Every step of the way, CI is extremely important. Then you start to look back with them, and they're amazed at what they've accomplished. That's leadership. We don't push folks into lean. So let's take a quick look here. So what we do, we look at technician time for optimization. So we'll take a look at 8 hours, and this is really simple, so dealers can understand this. Take 8 hours, the green is productive time, the black happens to be where it's not productive time. You have lunch, you have breaks, and so forth. So I just took an hour just to make it easy. So if you take an hour, that's lost time. Going to get tools, talking to their buddy, going out and getting a truck, bringing it in, that's not productive time, right? They're not working on the truck. And what we did was we looked at the biggest constraint, which was the longest distance that technician is from the parts area and also the tool room. So we measured the worst situation, all right? And then we average it, or we do some other walking with the technicians. So one of them that we were working with, we shadowed him, we clocked him. He was really good about it. We learned a lot about, as managers, what we were forcing our people to do because we weren't giving them a fair chance to be productive. So if you just take 1 hour of lost time, 15 technicians in a dealership, over a month's time, and then 12 months, that dealership in total labor is going to lose $450,000. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of revenue over an annual period of time. And if you take parts, which is usually a 50 cent to $1, then there's an additional $225,000 he's lost. At the end of the year, when you combine them, it's $675,000 they've lost by 1 hour of lost time with a technician, and there's 15 technicians. But it doesn't end there. This is where it really gets scary. 600 dealers in our network with an average of 15 technicians. You can see the math. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. It's the same type of equation. Total revenue lost. Look at that. There's a lot of zeros there. $270 million. 1 hour, per technician on an annual basis. Not only that, you have profit loss, which is 40.5 million. Then you start to look at, oh, what about the parts? At that 50 cents to $1, you have another 135 million. So the total loss is 405 million, with profit at 43.2 million over 1 hour per technician on an annual basis. That's a lot of money. Not only that, Navistar doesn't sell the parts. We lose 95 million. That's not even counting the downtime of the trucker who is supposed to be running to pay his mortgage, education, his family, whatever he has for bills, right? He's not working. Per day, it's about $635 per day downtime every time a driver does not drive. Think about the money that's being wasted. It's a huge opportunity, and that's what we're working on, to get rid of the waste in the service area to be more efficient and effective. Fix it right the first time. So what do? We put standard operating procedures together. So can you imagine you're going to 600 dealerships, you're putting this in place. This has been a 3-year journey with our district service managers, parts managers going out. This Project Confirmation 3.0 is a strategy that every dealer has adopted, and it works, and they're seeing the difference in being able to follow a standard operating procedure. Oh boy. Now we get into predictive analytics. Now this, I think, we're already into the IoT age. I just finished my MBA in big data because I'm a big believer in the people that can manage big data and understand it are going to win in this economy, this global economy. So please pay attention to IoT. This big stodgy trucking industry is way ahead of the game. So we have remote diagnostics. So what happens is, if a vehicle is having an issue, I'm working with a couple of fleets. I get a report every morning, and it shows me what is going on with that truck. If I see this truck ping 2 or 3 days, I will call the fleet and say, you got to get this truck down. You're not paying attention to it. It's going to have a breakdown, and it's going to be very costly. I can identify clearly what the failure code is, the description, the VIN, and the location of the truck. I took the VIN numbers off and the makes of the trucks on this because it happens to not be international trucks. I can see Freightliners, Volvos, PACCARs. I can see everybody that fleet might have, and it doesn't matter to me that they're a competitor. What matters to me is that the customer optimizes their vehicles in their fleet, because I believe if I do the right thing for the customer, they will end up being loyal to International and buy more trucks. So you can see the different codes that are showing up. You can even see the location of where the truck is. One of them happens to be at a dealership. The other one's in a remote location. And it's automated by the fleet, and they can identify who can view and the frequency. It is extremely powerful. And what it does, it stops the most expensive downtime, which is unplanned downtime. Can you imagine in your manufacturing facilities, if you can predict when some of your machinery is going to go down and be ahead of the game and not have a line down? That's how the fleets feel about it. These trucks are $100,000 a piece or more, and this is extremely important. So what's going to happen by 2018, at least 70% of the trucks on the road are going to have telematics. It is predictive information that makes a strategic difference. Those fleets that don't adopt it will get run over, literally, because they'll be on the side of the road, broken down, having to be on the hook, and extremely expensive for them, while the other ones are just driving by and have planned downtime. So functional support areas and the daily operations link, don't forget about that. All those support functions are extremely important. We tend not to communicate with them, and that happens at the dealership level as well. So one of my roles is to embrace the controller's office, to embrace the parts area, to embrace all of the support mechanisms, because if you have just service and parts being very lean, and the other departments don't have a sense of urgency or don't understand, Well, you're not going to be optimized, correct? Because they'll drag. You're going to have drag. So we have what's called King of the Bay. When I was at Swift Transportation, we had 23 shops. We were highly leveraged. Our interest rate per day when we were private was $1 million a day. We had a cash flow issue, and all the analysts said we were dead. And we proved them wrong. What we did was we took the technicians and we said, you're King of the Bay. We're bringing you in, and we're going to sit down, and we're going to huddle, and we're going to figure out how we're going to optimize. So we took all of those support functions and made sure that we were all aligned to support and be servant leaders to the technicians. The result was we bought 300 less trucks on an annual basis. Everybody said, well, I don't understand. They weren't sitting in the service drive. Our throughput increased by 72%. Who would ever want to say, oh, I'm going to increase this by 72%? The scary part was everybody said, oh my God, I didn't know we were that bad, right? So, you have to admit, yep, we were that bad. So what? That was the starting point. Look where we are now. So I've taken this model into the dealerships and talk about the technician being the shadow of the customer. Because if we enable the technician, we enable them to be efficient, we enable them to be effective, and they get the truck out faster, and the customers love it. So the support, which is outside of the scenery, really needs to come in and be part of the game. You see the little heart? That's the case for change. We tend to, in the dealerships, don't really appreciate customers. We don't treat them very well. If we don't have customers, we don't have a reason for being. So talking with them about embracing the customers. And one of the cases for change that I use when I talk with the dealership is about the service advisor. So you can think about this when you bring your vehicle in to be repaired. I say your air traffic controllers. You are extremely important, and you underestimate your capabilities and what you do for the dealership. So I'm getting on an airplane this afternoon. What if the air traffic controller had a drinking spree last night and put his feet up on the table and decided, I'm too tired, I'm not going to follow the standard operating procedures, I'm not going to put down the mileage, I'm not going to do any of that stuff. What's going to happen on the plane? It's going to crash and burn. When a driver hands the keys over to that service advisor, he's handing him his life, his home, his kids, his marriage, his money. He is trusting him to control that vehicle and be the air traffic controller. They're like, oh my gosh, I never thought about that. Yeah, well, you need to think about that. And you need to have empathy for that customer who frankly doesn't want to be here to begin with. So you have to get that truck through, you have to fix it right, you have to get him back on the road, and you have to have a case for change. That's the one thing I really haven't heard in the speeches today. You have to have a case for change. It is extremely powerful. Our case for change at Swift, when we turned that company around, was it's about Jerry. Jerry Moyes was great to all of the employees. When he bought back the company, he was leveraged personally as well. The case for change was, I'm doing it for Jerry. You wouldn't believe what people did. It was amazing what they pulled off and what they did. So if you can drive that passion into the employees, you will see amazing things happen when you empower them. So this is the anatomy of a high-performing service team who loves the customer, treats the customer great, makes sure the technician's the shadow, and servant leadership to drive that truck through. The winners in this environment are going to be the ones that have a competitive advantage and a passion for customers. Believe me, it will drive amazing results. If you don't have that, in the long run, you won't be here. We also show them lean tools. So we took an A3, which to some people is just overwhelming. We developed what's called a 4-square, same thing as an A3, just simplified. What's the current state? What's the future state? What's the gap between the two? And what do I need to do to execute? The hardest part of this whole thing is the execution, because they're afraid to put a percent increase or decrease or a date. That is the part that is very, very difficult for them because they're not used to it and they're afraid that they're not going to have the trust of management if they don't hit the dates and raise their hand and say they have an issue. So I often talk about the dots there. The white one under execution, they really didn't finish it off, so it's white. Green means you're on time developing. Red means you're off. And blue means you're done. When we see a red dot at Navistar, that isn't, oh, what's wrong with that guy? That's, oh my gosh, let's go over there and let's help him out. Let's figure out what we can do to support him because he has an issue and he has a constraint. And we're going to rescue him, we're going to huddle over there, and we're going to help him. The pick chart, to me, is one of the easiest tools that we can introduce to our team because it really nails these projects down. Greatest return, easiest to do. They start to visualize, and they're able to realize that some of these projects they may be choosing are up in the right-hand area or down in the kill space. It helps them. And so what we end up doing at the dealership, because they're just starting out, we'll put a big pick chart up. And we'll put little sticky notes. And they can put their projects on there and put them where they think they fall. And then we get a committee together of technicians, service advisors, different people, small group, and they rearrange it, repost it, and say, here's the stuff we're going to work on. Here's the rest of them that are in the parking lot because they don't want to boil the ocean, right? It's really phenomenal when you get people to be empowered and trusting. Organizational culture. Changing the culture is the most difficult. So what do you need to do? You need to understand the current culture. Take the time to do that. Create a plan for change. Internal communication and training is key. Communicate by senior leaders their commitment. I've heard that a number of times today. Explain why you're doing what you're doing, how you're doing it, what the expectation is. You can't over-communicate. Visual management helps tremendously. Because just like the last speaker talked about, you communicate, right? And everybody gets a different message. But visual management makes it concise and clear about where you're going and how to align people within the organization. Set up a support group, roots of a tree. I'll show you what we did at Navistar in a moment. Use the PDCA. I spent 13 years at Toyota. 80% planning, 20% action. We spend 20% planning, 80% action. Why? Because we go back around to fix. Go slower, you go faster. Big believer in that. Think about what you're doing, but don't get paralyzed, right? Harley Davidson. Look it up on the internet if you are not familiar with their case for change. Pennsylvania, 8.2 miles of assembly. Though at that time, if you remember, the motorcycles were breaking down all over and the stock price went down, and the CEO said, we're moving to Tennessee. Geez, can you imagine? I mean, you walk in that production facility, I've never seen so many people tattooed with the logo. People tattooed with your logo? They love Harley Davidson. So what did they do? They took that assembly from 8.2 miles down to 2.3. They burnt down a building that they said they were never going to go back to do that ever again. So if you're in Pennsylvania, visit this amazing production facility, and you can see the pride in the people. This is a union environment. It was really amazing what they did because there was trust and empowerment, and they explained and aligned, and they had a case for change to keep Harley Davidson in Pennsylvania. You can look at it on the internet as well. It's a really amazing story. When you understand the current culture, don't expect it to be digital. It's not. It's a progress, it's a process, and you know, as executives, we get very frustrated. But if you push, they're going to push back, and you just have to coach and lead because they want to know, is this going to fizzle? Is this flavor of the year? You know, is leadership really serious about this? You know, and really, what's in it for me, right? What are they going to get out of this if they put in all this extra effort? You have to relate to that. You have to talk in their terms. I talk with technicians a little different than I talk with the dealer principal. I have to speak their language. I dress down when I'm in a dealership because I want to gain the confidence and the trust of the technicians. And it has to be genuine. And I'm very genuine because I love technicians. It's amazing what they have to do to go to school and learn. When you create a plan for change, the biggest bother is the chasm. You have to close this really scary chasm. And you can't close it fast. You will lose people. You're going to have your early adopters, you're going to have the people that are enthused, and then you're going to have this other group that you have to bring along. And that's the majority. And the law of physics is just go up to somebody, have them put their hand up and push them. What are you going to get? Pushback. So be careful. You have to take your time. You have to be mindful about how you align the environment for the most success. We train, we measure, and we communicate. This just happens to be a chart that goes out every month to the senior leaders and also to the lean people within the organization. A half-hour Navistar way training, a lean manager training, a 3-hour classroom training, manufacturing simulation, and lean certification, 6 one-hour and a lean project with the Foursquare. Why do we have all this training? Why do we have in-classroom and intranet? Because everybody learns differently. So you have to have different types of training to be successful. So keep that in mind. And communication, formal and informal communication is very important. At executive meetings and staff meetings, the leaders have to talk about Lean or Six Sigma or whatever the plans are and the case for change. When they stop talking about it, employees go, oh, see that? Flavor of the year. They're not talking about it anymore. They have to keep this in their language. We use digital, we use email, we use social media. We have Yammer. And it's amazing. You can join a group, and all sorts of people that I've never heard of before are joining the Lean Yammer group because they're very interested in what's going on. The beauty of it is I would never have a touch point with those people. I would never be able to pull them in and be able to coach them on Lean. So we really like this environment of pulling in people within the organization. We also have storyboards and lean rooms so people can walk in and look and see what's happening and get educated. We also have people who just put lean up on the walls because they don't have a room that's available. You can walk by and you can see. It's a very trusting environment. And then the show and tell, when someone's done with a project, we had a blast doing 3-minute videos with them. And then, of course, it shows up on the intranet, and you can see all the people that get energized by watching their friends report on what they did in lean projects. And, of course, a dedicated intranet website so they can learn more about lean. Again, a variety of communication. This was our support group. It's Roots of a Tree. So we took the leaders, then we took direct reports to them, and then we found other lean people along with our staff. We call these the lean collaborators. Because if you have 5 people in the lean department only, how are you going to get to 10,000 people? You're going to get to it by building a tree with its roots and spanning out and having support groups. The speed of lean. The speed of lean is about communication, verbal and visual. I love football. And I often say to the executives, why do you think they huddle before a play? Do you think they do it because it looks like it's fun? They do it because they're huddling so everybody knows what the next play is. They're aligning. Come on, guys. Do you huddle every morning real quick? Make sure you're all on the same wavelength? Yeah. Huddle, talk, communicate, and get aligned every day so you know your game plan. They can relate to that. They understand that. If I said to them, oh, make sure you have a staff meeting, it's got to be a stand-up for 15 minutes, and they'd be like, oh, yeah, I don't have time for that. But they understand. I'm talking their language. Think about that when you're working within your organization. And predictability is extremely important. Another speaker talked about that. Employees want predictability. If you're going to have a program, what you said is what you're walking, what you're talking, and what they're expecting. It's really important because it gets very worrisome and chaotic during change. They want to see more methodology, and they want to see less chaos. And it's up to you to coach them through that. The manager's working on strategic things rather than the tactical things because they're being taken care of by the employees, or they've just disappeared because we're more efficient, we're more effective in what we're doing. Look at that dealership. There isn't a spot, a drop of hazmat, oil, coolant, nothing. Same thing with the boxes. In each box, is a very small dealership in Laredo, Texas with the boxes. Every box has its place. Green are where the new parts come, red are where the takeoff parts are, blue is where the trash can in, and yellow is for the mop pail. Pretty clear, pretty simple. It's not fancy. The dealership on the left is amazing. Absolutely amazing. It's not fancy, but look at the floor. Shiny. If you own a $100,000, $120,000 truck, and you see that, you know your truck is being taken care of. The white floor in that particular dealership is right near one of our biggest customers, Prime. Great relationship. You look at that, you know your truck's being taken care of. And they have the best technicians in the industry at that dealership. Why? Because of the environment. Think about that. We have happy customers. I often ask our customers, are we number one on the speed dial? If I get a no, why not? I don't know, I didn't think about it. Well, then, can I be number one on your speed dial? I want to be your number one that you're going to go to. Okay, that's great. Think about that. Think about that for a minute. How powerful that is. And you're finding out why if they're not. And then you watch them. Put you on number one speed dial. When we lean out the dealerships, the customers receive their trucks faster. And what's that do? It creates earning power. It is great for the economy. Think about that. Think about the money we went through and how we can spin our economics within the trucking industry and get items to stores, homes faster. Fixing it right the first time means less downtime. A pleasant experience means customer loyalty. And a grateful thank you that we often forget in the retail industry, in a dealership environment. It is a competitive advantage and a differentiator if we take the time to say thank you very much, because the rest aren't doing that. And those guys work hard. So employee morale improves when you have connection between the employees and the customers. There's two books that I've lived my life by. One is Customers for Life. Carl Sewell, and this is an older book. When I was at Toyota, Carl Sewell became a Lexus dealer. And there was one line in this book that changed my life. He said, I didn't worry about profit. I worried about doing everything right, and I knew the profit would come. I thought, oh, that's great. So I was in sales at the time. I thought, okay, I'm going to follow this. I won every sales contest. Everything. Amazing sales. And everybody said I was lucky. I said, yep, that's right, plan luck. You ever see anybody who's really lucky? Find out about what they're doing, because they're planning that luck. I guarantee you they're doing everything right to get the right outcome. He's hugely successful. Automotive News just had a big article on his son. So I encourage you to read that book. It can change your life. The Speed of Trust. Stephen Covey, you ever do a deal with somebody, shake hands, boom, done, right? You go, wow, I'm going to do business with that person again. That was so fast, that was so easy to do business with. Meanwhile, you shake hands with a guy and you walk away going, this is not going to be good. I already know this is not going to work, right? Do you do business with him again? No, not unless you have some long litigious document, right? Or you just plain don't even deal with them. The speed of trust, if we can get our drivers to trust us, it will be amazing about the economic advantage and profitability that will come to our dealerships, because they'll end up buying more trucks. We'll have more units on the road, we'll have more service and parts business. So you think about that in your manufacturing environment. If you're defect-free and you deliver parts on time, high quality, right price, it's endless about how much money you can make. 2 books that are really great. And being mindful every day about what we do. Thank you.